Hi guys, and welcome to lesson 2. Now before we go on to actually look at decimals in a bit more detail, I wanted to show you this place value chart. Now I'm sure you would have remembered this from even year 2, as early on I think we start teaching you about place value, and also we started it again at the beginning of this year in year 4. Now you can see here that we are usually used to dealing with columns such as hundreds, tens and ones, or even thousands and so on. However, because we're dealing with decimals, I wanted to introduce you to another column that goes on a place value chart. So you can see here that we've got this column where the decimal lives, and then we've got this lowercase t, and that represents tenths. Now remember, it's different to the capital T, which represents tens, and tenths is represented by a lowercase or a smaller t. And I think it's much easier to remember because tenths, as we know, are parts of whole numbers. So let's listen on and let's get on with our second lesson of decimals. Okay guys, let's have a look at our in focus task to begin. Now you can see up here that we've got 5 counters. They are grey at the moment, and I will explain in a little bit what that means. So over here we have Angelina, and Angelina says, let each counter stand for either 1 whole or 0.1. We know that 0.1 is also the same as saying 1/10. However, Richard has some other ideas, and Richard says, use all of the 5 counters to make a number. I've started already on the place value chart here. You can see that I've got one of my counters in the ones column, and I've also got another counter in my tenths column. So I've got 1 whole and 1/10. Now, just like the previous slide, we had discovered that a number that had been put in the place value chart. We've got a new number in this place value chart over here, and I'm wondering if anyone can help me and tell me what is the new number in my place value chart. Any ideas? Well, I'm hoping some of you would have been able to identify that I've got 1 whole and now I've got 2 tenths. Now I'm sure you're wondering, is that just it, Miss Sorlo? What else do we need to know? Well, listen on to the next slide. Angelina uses a place value chart to scatter some of her counters. Have a look up here to see if you can recognise the number she has made. So Angelina has used 3 ones counters and 2 tenths counters. So she has got 3 ones and 2 tenths. Now we're just going to learn how we would write that as a number sentence. Now we've got 3 wholes, and remember we learnt from yesterday that we would write 2 tenths as 0.2. So when you add it together, you combine it and we read it as 3.2. So that is equal to 3 and 2 tenths. Let's see if we can work out what number Richard has made using the counters. If you have a look at the place value chart, you can see that he's put 2 ones counters in the ones column and also 3 tenths counters in the tenths column. And we would write that as 2.3. We know that we've added 2 ones and 3 tenths, and our number sentence would be 2 plus 0.3, giving us 2.3 as our answer. I want you to have a look at question 3. What number has Jenny made? Have a look at her place value chart. I'm hoping that you're able to see that Jenny has created 1 ones out of counters and also how many tenths? Any ideas? Brilliant. You will see that she's created 4 tenths. Now, how am I going to write that as a decimal? Think about the previous number sentence that we saw on the last slide. Any ideas? Well, we're going to have to put that 1 whole and add it to our 4 tenths. But altogether, that final number is going to be, any ideas? Lovely, it's going to be 1.4 altogether. Now for guided practice, this is your chance to have a go at doing some of these questions by yourself. So we can see up here that question 1 is telling us to use ones counters and tenths counters to show a number. Now have a look at question A. We've got 1.6. You can see here that I've done the first one for you, and you're going to have to draw 1 of the 1 whole counters and then 6 of the tenths counters to show the number 1.6. What I would like for you to do now is to pause this video and either on a mini whiteboard or in your exercise books or on a scrap piece of paper, just have a go at completing B, C and D by yourselves by drawing the counters that are showing the number that the question is asking. Okay guys, I'm hoping that you found questions B, C and D quite straightforward, but if not, please don't worry, have a look at the answers that I'm going to be discussing next. So question B, we can see that we've been asked to create out of counters the number 2.4. That means we should have 2 ones counters and then we should have 4 of the tenths counters. Now I know it's a bit tricky to draw these at home, but I'm hoping that it looks something like this pictorially. Now question C, we're being told that we've got 4 ones and then we've got 8 tenths. So let's just check that off. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ones, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths, showing us the number 4.8 in counters. And last but not least, we have got the number 0.3. Now, because we were learning this yesterday, we can see that we would write 3 tenths as 0.3. Thinking about our place value chart from before, I'm just going to draw it above. We know that this column represents the ones and this column on the right hand side of the decimal represents the tenths. There are no whole numbers or ones in this particular question D. So I'm hoping that you were able to get through this with no problem. Well done, guys. Right. Question 2 of guided practice is the last practice we're going to be having before we go into our worksheets. So let's have a look. The question asks, what value does the digit 7 stand for in each number? Now I want you to have a look at questions A and B. Remember, we're looking only at the value that the digit 7 stands for. So let's have a look at the first one. Can you work out what value this digit 7 stands for? Any ideas? Well, I'm hoping you would be almost kind of drawing or thinking about your place value chart, and you'd be able to see that the value of the 7 in this question A would represent 7 ones. Brilliant. Now, question B, let's have a look. We've now got a new number, 2.7. What value does the digit 7 stand for in question B? Any ideas? Well, hopefully you would have been able to recognize that this number is on the right hand side of the decimal, so it's not a whole number, it has to mean 7 tenths. Now I'm just going to do a little t there. Lovely. What I want you to do now, everybody, I would love for you to go back to either our PDF today on class stories, or if you have your 4B workbook at home, can you please complete the worksheets on pages 3 and 4. Please don't forget the day, and best of luck. And if you need any other help, just come back and rewind parts of the video.